The January 6th House Select Committee will hold another public hearing this afternoon. Now, the panel will focus on the role of right-wing extremist groups during the attack and possible ties between former President Trump and his allies. Congressional correspondent Nikole Killion is at the Capitol with a preview of the proceedings today. Nikole, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you and Marie. And the committee hasn't officially named the witnesses who will testify today due to security concerns, but it will examine the role of extremist groups like the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and whether they had any connections to the Trump White House.
They came with explosives, they came armed, they came with maps of the Capitol and with plans that extended beyond just a peaceful protest.
Two sources with knowledge of the hearing tell CBS News former Oath Keeper spokesman Jason Van Tatenhove will address the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack. He met with them in March and is expected to discuss his relationship with leader Stewart Rhodes, who is jailed awaiting trial on seditious conspiracy charges. He has pleaded not guilty.
We got footage all over the place on the Capitol.
The committee will also hear from Stephen Ayers, an Ohio man who attended the Stop the Steal rally and pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct after converging on the Capitol. According to court documents, he suggested civil war will ensue if former President Trump was denied the presidency, and cited this December 19th tweet from the former president urging supporters to come to Washington. Be there, it will be wild.
You'll see the evidence that we have of how the president's tweet in the wee hours of December 19th activated the groups and how the members of Congress amplified that tweet, and the tragic end result was January 6th.
The tweet followed a meeting Trump had with outside advisors to discuss seizing voting machines and appointing a special counsel to investigate election fraud. The House panel plans to highlight possible links between some of Trump's associates, like former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and Roger Stone, and the violent extremists.
But to the extent there was any other direct involvement with these groups, it's really important because the purpose of these hearings, we have to remember, is for Congress to write laws to prevent this kind of violence from occurring in the future.
Committee members say it's possible we could see new video testimony from former White House counsel Pat Cipollone, who you may recall, Anne-Marie, met with the committee for about 8 hours last week. They say that he corroborated accounts from other witnesses, including former White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson.
All right, so Nikole, what the panel has been doing sort of this whole time is trying to create a direct link between the president and those who rushed the Capitol, right? That he knew that the outcome of the 2020 election was valid, that he said certain things he knew would ignite the crowd, and he refused to say things to simmer the situation down. But today's hearing, I think, is the biggest challenge, right? They're trying to connect some of Trump's associates, Roger Stone, Michael Flynn, with some of these violent extremists. What can you tell me about the argument that they're building between these two men and the extremists?
Well, again, the committee is planning to lay out the evidence that it has in relation to these groups, and again, trying to determine whether or not there was any type of connection. It's unclear if we will see any kind of smoking gun, if you will, but we do know, for instance, with Michael Flynn, the former president's national security advisor, that he did plead the fifth numerous times before the committee, and he has been a popular figure in the QAnon movement, which is also something that the committee will examine as part of the hearing today, although Flynn now says that it's total nonsense and a disinformation campaign. In terms of Roger Stone, he actually had security from some members of the Oath Keepers ahead of the January 6th riot. So, committee aides also add that in addition to looking into these potential links, that they will also be looking at whether, for instance, anyone in the White House, whether that was staff or advisors, also had information about the potential for violence on January 6th.
So former Oath Keepers spokesman Jason Van Tatenhove, he's already spoken to the committee in private. What new information do they expect to get from him during today's televised public hearing?
Yeah, well, he met with the panel for about 3.5 hours back in March. And keep in mind, this is someone who worked for the Oath Keepers as an employee. He was their national media director and is expected to talk more about his relationship with the leader of the Oath Keepers, Stuart Rhodes, who at one point lived in his basement. Of course, Ben Tatenhove has now cut ties with this extremist group. He did that several years ago, and his attorney said a couple months back that, Van Tatenhove continues to speak out and will continue to do so about what he believes are the dangers of some of these extremist groups.
And then you mentioned that the committee is expected to play sort of portions of their closed-door interview this week with former White House counsel Pat Cipollone. Much was made about the fact that he was going to be interviewed. Do we know anything more about how what he said will be utilized?
Yeah, well, we do know that, again, Cipollone met with the panel for some 8 hours last week, and so the committee has made clear that it will likely use some of that deposition in future hearings, whether we see that in today's hearing or potentially future hearings as well. And they say that is in part because he did provide a lot of valuable information to the committee. They say he provided a lot of relevant and new information that they believe reflects, in their view, the former president's dereliction of duty. And so, again, the committee has not been clear if we will definitely see some of that new footage today, but they have made clear that they do intend to put it out in some shape or form.
Well, all I know is each public hearing we have heard stunning testimony after stunning testimony. I'm pretty sure today's hearing is not going to disappoint. Nikole, thank you so much.
You bet.